Am I the asshole for refusing to babysit my sister's kids for several weeks while she's on a babymoon with her boyfriend? My 28 female sister Jamie, 38 female, has 3 kids. Melanie, 11 female, Sarah, 8 female, and Carl, 5 male, with her ex-husband, whom she divorced 6 months ago due to her cheating with her current boyfriend, Daniel, 62 male. Interesting. Jamie's kids are absolute brats, and last time they came over, 3 years ago, Melanie smashed a vase and Sarah scribbled on my Uggs with permanent marker. This was when I decided to become child-free. I also decided to distance myself from them, though I do speak to them and we do have occasional family dinners at my aunt's place. Anyways, Jamie and Daniel are expecting a child, a boy. And they decided to go on a babymoon, which will happen in a week, and they are not very wealthy. Jamie spent nearly all of her money on the trip, and Daniel will work double shifts until then and after the babymoon to support the both of them, so they did not hire a babysitter. Yesterday, Jamie unexpectedly called me and asked if I could babysit her kids. I said no, as I've been getting a degree online, and I have to fly to where my university is for my graduation ceremony. At first, she tried to persuade me, saying that her kids are absolute darlings, and I won't even notice that they are there. I said that my answer was still the same, and then she went off on a rant and called me all kinds of shit, like that I'm a heartless bear who can't have a little compassion for her poor pregnant sister. I told her that if she wants somebody to work for her for free, she can actually get a job and not sleep with men who are literally old enough to be her father in the hopes that they are rich. She hung up and is now bombarding me with texts begging me to reconsider. I'm beginning to feel a bit guilty. Should I have been nicer to Jamie? Am I the arsehole? In the comments, Sophia Lee says, not the arsehole. You are under no obligation to babysit your nieces and nephews, especially when it's for an extended period and you have your own commitments. Your sister's behavior is unreasonable and disrespectful. Worldly Sir replies, Babymoon? Folks are just making up holidays on the fly now, not the arsehole. Well, it's meant for first-time parents. The last time that it's just the 2 of you, not for a 4th kid. Well, now you phrase it that way, I realize we actually did that. 5 months pregnant, we spent a wonderful week in Rome. 10 out of 10, but I would never do it if I had other children. Well, seems like a babymoon is more of a luxury than a necessity when you already have 3 kids. Prioritizing a trip over ensuring stable care for them just feels selfish, honestly. What about gaycation? Well, only one of them can go on that. Well, that's the beauty of the gaycation. Submit or be destroyed, guys. I think you're not the asshole in this one, OP. I really think that their dad just needs to be the one to look after these kids. They got a dad. It's not like he went anywhere. They can go sort that out for themselves. Their failure to plan is not your personal emergency, not the asshole. And now, onto the update. Last night, Jamie texted me, and she seemed upset. Apparently, she had to cancel her babymoon because I rudely denied the amazing opportunity to watch her kids. However, not everything from the cancelled trip was fully refunded, so she demanded that I compensate her with the rest, and also pay for a fully funded trip to Disney for her, Daniel, and the brats. She also sent me links to several things, such as a pack of Japanese, expensive diapers, baby clothes, baby shoes, what baby needs mini Asics that cost a bomb, and other stuff, totaling about $500. I didn't text back, and I blocked her. Later, Daniel called me. I didn't pick up. At about midnight, Jamie showed up at my house and dropped Melanie, her 11-year-old, off. Now I'm conflicted. Should I call the police and get Jamie in trouble, and possibly get Melanie in trouble with Jamie, or should I go to her house and sort this out myself? I really hope that I don't have to make any more updates. In the comments, Sweet Interview says, not the asshole. Call the police and tell them your sister abandoned her child, and that she threatened to abandon all of her kids and disappear for multiple weeks, whether you're available or agree or not. Let them come and get the niece and her face consequences. Unless you give her consequences, she will continue to abuse you, so it's the only way to stop this for good. Take actions. She broke the law abandoning her daughter when she knew that you're against it, so let her face child services and the police for it. Also, call the dad and offer to testify to give him full custody if he wants it. Not the asshole. She essentially just abandoned her child as a way of forcing a relationship with you. Letting her get away with this will only set a shitty future precedent where she will always feel okay with just dropping them off with no warning. Call the cops. If you're feeling generous, then text her that, unless she picks up the kid in an hour, that you will call the cops and CPS on her. That's a good plan. I don't think you should make any more updates on this story. I think you should just call the cops and be done with this situation. Keep her blocked and move on. Terrible situation for her to put her kids in, and maybe she shouldn't have those kids. Maybe they should go to the dad. You're still not the asshole OP. Our next post is by user Potential Low 8645, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for giving crappy Christmas gifts and ruining my marriage? I, 31 female, married my soon-to-be ex-husband, male 33, in 2018. My in-laws never liked me and made it clear. Soon-to-be ex insisted that they are just putting up a tough exterior and that they'll grow to love me. To show how evil they are, one time I joined them for dinner and bought a cake that I'd made because I was always raised to be a gracious guest. When I stepped into the kitchen and offered the cake to his mother as a thank you for inviting me, she took the plate over to the garbage bin, dumped it in, and handed me the plate back. When I told my husband what she did, he confronted her, and all of a sudden the crocodile tears started, and she claimed that she grabbed the plate but didn't get a good grip. I let go too quickly, and it fell to the floor, so of course it had to be thrown away. My sister-in-law confirmed that that was what happened. My soon-to-be ex owned his own business, and they called me a gold digger behind his back. Of course, they insisted on a prenup, which I didn't care about because I never thought my marriage would end, and it would appease them and may allow them to finally treat me kindly. Nope. His business failed once COVID hit. We went through his savings and my own to try to keep it afloat. I refused to go into debt to keep it going, so he closed it down. In 2022, he was suffering from really bad depression because he lost his business and couldn't find new work. He suggested that we move to his hometown, closer to his family, so that he had a larger support network. Against my best judgment, we did. He wanted to only work part-time while he tried to restart his business, so I became the main breadwinner. And as with most wives, I became the person in charge of buying gifts. Stupid old me thought buying them thoughtful, expensive gifts would finally make them see I wanted to be accepted by them. Gifts to us were a couple's gift, but clearly for my soon-to-be ex only. Every holidays was spent with them. Monthly dinners with the whole family. After a year, I realized that if I ever tried to talk or join a conversation, everyone would go quiet, so I just stopped talking when I visited. In early December, they finalized plans for Christmas. A few days later, my soon-to-be ex said that his family decided they didn't want me to join them for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas lunch because I ruined the family vibe. I replied with, "Fine, we'll do our own thing instead." My soon-to-be ex sheepishly looked away and said he still was going to go. I was livid and so disappointed in him. That was the moment that I knew that my marriage was over. So I returned the presents that I had bought for his family. In their place, I got one pair of novelty business socks for father-in-law, a supermarket brand bottle of shampoo for mother-in-law, the nastiest perfume that I could find at the dollar store for sister-in-law. The most expensive gift was a large rawhide bone for brother-in-law and his wife's chihuahua, too big for it to get its jaw around, rendering it useless. I saved about $600 to put on a deposit for a new apartment. My husband came home from Christmas lunch telling me that I humiliated him and embarrassed him in front of his family. I asked him why he would think that I'd buy nice gifts for people who clearly don't like me and don't want me around. I served divorce papers last week. Remember how he was supposed to be a millionaire by now, so we had that prenup? Soon-to-be ex is not eligible for any of my savings. It was required to keep separate accounts or alimony. He doesn't have money for rent and auto insurance, but that's not my problem anymore. Some of my friends and family are on my side and are proud that I went out in a blaze of glory. Others are telling me that I was being way too petty, which isn't really like me. So am I the asshole? In the comments, Icy Material 4387 says, "Not the asshole. He chose his family over you and still expected you to buy all the presents? This was perfectly planned and well-deserved for every one of them, including him." And OP says, "He only worked 12 hours a week at Walmart so he could do non-existent work restarting his business. I make just over 6 figures, and I can't believe that I didn't realize years ago that I was the family ATM. Not the asshole. You were treated horribly. Good riddance." Exactly. They treated her like crap. Good for her for finally walking away. Her marriage ended because of her husband's refusal to prioritize her over his toxic family, not because of some gifts. She deserves better. She handled years of mistreatment with grace, but everyone has a breaking point. Saving that $600 for herself was the best decision. Not the asshole. So thoughtful of them to insist on a prenup. I hope you send them a sincere thank you note after the divorce is finalized. OP replies, "My lawyer even laughed that the prenup that was set up for him is going to be what we use for me. It required both spouses to maintain separate bank accounts, and each spouse could keep 100% of their savings. No spouse eligible for alimony. I would say be glad that you didn't have children with him. Be glad you can escape and be free with no strings. P.S. This relationship should be a learning lesson on the love that you want for yourself and the life that you want, not as a loss." And OP says, "The first thing I did after I moved into the new apartment was adopt an older cat from the shelter. He was allergic, and I couldn't ever adopt one since we started living together. We're just two old hags living our best lives after being rejected." I think it's one of those age-old situations where eventually one or two things happen. Either they realize you are worth it, or you realize they're not. Let's hope OP and the kitty can ride off happily into the sunset after this one. Let's hope the bank of mummy and daddy can, and Sissy, don't forget, can bail him out of his financial woes. I don't know, you were treated so terribly for so many years. You deserve all the good things in life after this, OP. They never made any effort to welcome you into the family, and he never stood up for you. He never tried to bridge the gap. You did so much to try and be there for them and be a part of their family, and you were never welcomed. And then your ex has the gall to blame you for gifts that he wasn't even obviously bothered to buy himself. No, screw him. Not the asshole. And now, on to the update. Many thanks to everyone for their support in my last post. I thought I'd send a small update. Firstly, for those who asked how the deposit on my new apartment was only the $600 that I saved on the gifts, it certainly wasn't. I had to dip into savings, but that $600 helped. My soon-to-be ex did not bother reaching out to me after I left until he was served the divorce papers, and my lawyer made it clear that we were exercising the prenup. Then it was loving voicemails and texts that I never picked up from him and his family for a few days, trying to convince me to come back, which eventually turned to threatening and cruel voicemails and texts when it was clear that I wasn't budging. My lawyer suggested that I don't block them so that we have evidence of harassment if needed. Basically, give them the rope to hang themselves with. But then last night, I got call after call from my soon-to-be ex. Stupidly, I picked it up, thinking that there was some kind of emergency or something. I barely got hello out when he said, "The rent is a week late." I told him that's strange because I paid my landlord 6 days ago. He paused and sighed dramatically and replied, "No, the rent for here." I reminded him that I don't live there and he should not expect rent. Cue his parents both texting me that they're going to sue me to pay the remainder of the lease entirely. I'm not worried about having an eviction on my record, since the apartment is in his parents' names. When we first announced that we were moving to his hometown, they rented an apartment for us right away so that we could move right in. They've been renewing the lease each year. We had to pay his parents, and then they write a check to the landlord, who has no idea who soon-to-be ex and I are, let alone that we lived there. Red flag, I know. I'm glad that I had a few weeks to prep my leaving, since they'd probably use the fact that it's their apartment to kick me out immediately. Divorce is probably going to be a bumpy ride with this man-child and his psycho parents. Any advice from anyone who's been through this would be welcome. In the comments, Isgo asks, do you even have a contract at the place that your soon-to-be ex is living? I don't think they have a basis for suing you, lol. What does your lawyer say? And OP says, lawyer is confident they have no leg to stand on. I haven't signed any type of lease, and utilities are in their name too, because they were afraid of having too many names connected to the apartment and the landlord finding out. So they're on the hook for everything that doesn't get paid. But hey, that was their choice and their scheming. Mess around and find out. They would be stupid to sue you. They're trying to hide what sounds very much like an illegal sublet from the landlord. If they sue, then many of the reasons you might have for not telling the landlord what's going on pretty much go out the window. Even if you don't particularly want to do it, defending against a suit could necessitate it. Once the landlord finds out, if they're going to evict, they're going to evict. Not your circus, not your monkeys. Of course, the fact that they thought doing an illegal sublet was a bright idea in the first place says a fair bit all of its own. They might not consider that sort of consequence before jumping into those waters. JRM says, seems like you have everything under control. Best of luck. You'll need it with them. Yeah, best of luck with that, OP. Keen to see what happens with this one in the future. I would love another update on this story, I won't lie. I hope that family gets everything they signed up for. I hope the consequences of their fraudulent actions catch up to them sooner than later. Because that is a whole mess. That is a ridiculous amount of mess. There's 3 people that aren't able to pay a rent together. They invested so much into you and then abused you, and they are finding out, that is for sure. Thank you for the story, OP. Fantastic. That is peak cinema right there. Our next post is by user, oh Jesus, oh fuck, oh no, titled, My brother, 15 male, has been lying about my, 25 male, life to my conservative, estranged parents, made fake Instagram. Help. Okay, I'll try to make this quick, but there's a lot, and I'm freaking the hell out. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. If you don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses are extremely conservative to an insane degree. I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter, if that makes sense. And my parents were not lax or exceptions for my children type. Extremely devout people, and I am gay. When I was 16, I was outed horribly by my sister, who found some gay porn that I didn't delete from my computer history. My family, of course, flipped out and demanded that I either seek conversion therapy or get out. Luckily for me, my aunt had also defected from the church, so I was able to move in with her, far away. My parents and sister immediately wanted nothing to do with me, but my brother was 6. He was too young to really grasp what was going on and had no phone or social media or anything, so I couldn't contact him. I honestly just assumed he drank the same end is nigh Kool-Aid and never sought him out. Earlier this year, I got a message from him on Facebook. It was a gigantic apology for not saying goodbye properly and that he really wanted me back in his life. Clicking through his profile, I didn't see any Jehovah's Witness proselytizing like my sisters, just pictures of him and his friends being normal teens. I was beyond happy. I messaged him back, we FaceTimed, cried, and he caught me up a little in his life, and I caught him up a little in mine. And from there, we started texting regularly. I am very, very happy about all this, but he was still living under my parents' roof, and was still heavily in Jehovah's Witness culture. I was nervous about this. He always reaffirmed that he only called and texted when he wasn't in the house, or around other Jehovah's Witnesses, and reaffirmed that he thought that the church was awful. Last week, something weird happened. I got an email from my mother. It was a picture from a recent Dells trip that she had taken with my family and another Jehovah's Witness family. Years of no contact and then this. What the fuck? I spent days talking this out with my friends before it occurred to me that my brother might have something to do with this. I brought up the email to my brother when I called him yesterday, barely hinting at my suspicions at all, and he unloaded. He had been lying to my parents. He said that I contacted him, apologizing, and was desperate to get back in contact with the witnesses again, but was too ashamed. But then the kicker is that he made a fake Instagram to show them. He plucked all of the G-rated pictures from my various social medias and filled it in with captions about how devout I am, how happy I am to have refound God's light, etc. He had taken pictures of me and my best friend Julie and added captions like the love of my life, my bride-to-be, etc. Like, holy shit. He seemed already remorseful of this ploy, but that he was in too deep to stop now. Now, he didn't say as much, but the obvious implication here is that he thought that he could get my family back together. But this isn't a fucking sitcom or the birdcage. He is catfishing his very emotionally unstable and religious zealot parents into thinking that their F-word outcast son was reconverting. I have no intentions of being in their life ever again, but I'd like to remain in my brother's life. And I don't want this incident to scare him off or sever the small bits of contact we have now. So what do? I'll not be recontacting my parents, nor will I pretend to be straight. Obviously, I need to tell him to close the account and stop talking about me to them, but what else, if anything? In the comments, maybe he wants grounds to escape to you. Look, bro's all fixed. I can go visit him during the summer without being banished. I don't think that it was a ploy to drag you back in, because he wasn't trying to convert you. He was trying to deceive them. If this could help him have a sane and safe outlet, that would be great. He may also really miss you and just wish you could be unbanished, but you obviously shouldn't have to put on an act to go home. Entirely, fuck that. But the poor kid is trapped, and odd coping mechanisms are to be expected, really. I'm most curious about what his intentions were. And Darth Ugly says, I'm on the same line as you. Maybe the brother doesn't want to lose contact with OP, and by lying about who contacted who, he is safe to continue to speak with OP. Given that he's underaged and his safety may be at risk, I would simply have a conversation with him about how you love him, but you don't want any more contact with your parents at all, because they don't accept you for who you are. And you will continue to be, because that's the way that God, if there is a God, made you. Tell him to stop posting to the Instagram. Be very careful what he says to your parents, and that you'll be there for him when and if he needs you if he should choose to leave the church. Don't respond to your parents. Let them think whatever they think. Wait a while and report the fake accounts to Instagram to be sure that it gets shut down. Dial back the contact a little and then go about your life. And now, onto the update 3 days later. Thank you all for your illuminating comments. I'm honestly overwhelmed at the response and apologize for not replying much. It was so much. But I'd like to specifically thank user MyMan for his comment, which suggested that this was not him trying to rope me back in, but him trying to escape the cult. You were exactly right. Today we talked for the first time since our conversation. He took down the Insta after our conversation, which I hadn't noticed at the time of writing the post, and I gently asked why exactly he did this. He's 15, so he didn't quite have the language to say, I'm being abused and need to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses. What he said instead was that mum and dad are crazy and he's become disillusioned with the cult. He even used the word cult. He still believes in God and wants to explore different sects of Judeo-Christianity. My hometown is a small place in the Midwest, and everyone knows who the Jehovah's Witnesses are. They're like those people. So he couldn't covertly go to another service without someone recognizing him and it getting back to my parents. His motive was pretty much what the user MyMan said. He said he wants to visit, hang out, and explore the religions around Chicago, but the only way my parents would allow him to leave town is if they knew exactly where he was, who he was with the whole time, etc. So in his head, propping me up as converted was the only way to make it happen. I told him that I was completely uncomfortable with that, and that my relationship with my parents is over. He apologized, and pretty much already knew the logistical problems. I think this was a very maturing ordeal for him. I established myself as a lifeline. I told him that if it ever gets too much, I'll pay for his train tickets and he can stay with me for as long as he likes, even moving in for the remainder of high school. And I mean it, I have enough space, and my aunt will help with childcare and extra expenses. He seemed apprehensive, but the thought is out there, and he now seems comfortable enough to vent about the church, my parents, and my crazy-ass sister directly. As for my parents, I just told them to cold turkey, stop talking about me if they ask. And this was suggested by Julie, my bride-to-be. He will tell them that I might have refound Christianity, but I have no intentions to return to the Watchtower, and that he stopped talking to me. Leaving Jehovah's Witnesses for any reasons is grounds for excommunication, and I put my actual Insta on private in case they go looking. They might think I'm not gay, might now have the sliver of hope that I'll return to them, but that's honestly not my fucking problem. And for the guys who suggested that this was a honeypot, no 15-year-old can act this well. He is so full of love and kindness, and as fucked up as his plan was, at the end of the day, it was because he is panicking in a toxic environment. Thank you all again. My brother is back in my life, and I now have the means to help him. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In the comments, a downvoted commenter says, "Pretty sure I'll be downvoted for this, but it's lame as hell that you won't go along with it just so that your brother can have somewhere safe to go when he needs to. No one said you need to be best buddies with your parents again, and them having kicked you out for any reason is a good reason to not have to befriend them." And OP says, "The logistical problems are insurmountable. What if, instead of sending a 15-year-old alone on a trip with a previously gay son, they all make a trip? What if they try to contact me, meet my wife? Again, this isn't the birdcage. And the point of the birdcage is that you can't hide who you are, even if it is to earnestly help a loved one." Annie Pebble says, "I'm so glad that they kept the line of communication open, that the two of them have access to each other still, especially since their sister is so stuck. I really empathized with him mentioning the internet connecting him to the world outside the cult. I grew up in a cult-adjacent evangelical church, and it was the same for me. Going along with the lie sounds like the right thing to do in theory, but no way in hell the parents would just let the younger son go to stay with the older without so much as a phone call. But that's the thought-through plan of a 15-year-old. Here's hoping the kid gets out. Here's hoping he got out too, you know? It's very much not an easy situation, and in some respects, it is above Reddit's pay grade. But I still think it is worth putting the advice out there for those that need it, because obviously, as OP has said, it did help. And knowing that you have support, even just from random people on the internet, can help you do leaps and bounds more than if you're just doing it alone. I think moral support is some of the best support you can get. Anyway guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.